Hey, you guys, welcome back to Chalk Blocked, the world's sexiest DFS show for now. I am brought to you live on Twitter Live, Periscope. I don't even know what they call it anymore, but I'm Bo McBrayer, Bo McBig Time on Twitter. And as you can see, we've amazingly blasted off into the stratosphere of sexy here. We replaced, maybe just for a week, but we replaced for today. We replaced Scott Simpson with a much more handsome version, the marvelous mustachioed Matt Donnelly, Dingus himself, the Canadian Philip Rivers. What's going on, Matt?
You know what? All that is true. Sorry, Scott. Every single word that Bo just said is true. They call me Matt McStash. We got Bo McBig Time here. We got Matt McStash. We're bringing you a little a little NWN here going on. And I was kind of looking at this. I feel like I almost need to put these on just to kind of fit the whole solution. But then I started realizing I can't see right now. I don't know what's going on.
See, here's what I do is I'm going to put actual prescription glasses on so I can see better because it's nighttime and I'm inside and I don't really like having mirrors on my eyes like a housefly. That doesn't appeal to me too much. So yeah, you don't have to do anything to replace Scott Simpson, although you do look smashing in those mirror shades. I can't pull those off for some reason. I look like a bug.
It's trippy right now. It's trippy right now. So I'm looking at the video of us here on the screen, and then I'm looking at me with my glasses, looking at me with my glasses on. It's a trip, man. It's a trip right now.
Do you probably need to adjust your own pants? It's a sexy overload. And this is the world's sexiest DFS show. So I really nailed it down getting the north of the border sexy on tonight. Tonight we're going to be going over week one. There's a lot to be talked about. Obviously, there's a lot of exciting matchups to play around with. We have less than 1 week until the opening night game between the Tampa Bay Bucks with their Lombardi Trophy. They're getting their rings, and my Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be fun. We're looking at a pretty exciting start to the season, and then just 3 days later, we're going to have a full slate of NFL action. Regular season, it all matters now. Everybody's 0-0. And I got some hot takes just for week one. I already wrote an 8,000 word article predicting hot takes for the entire season for all 32 NFL teams plus NFL honors. But I'm going to focus on week one. The PICANTakes are going to fly for week one. And that's really what this episode's going to be about, is taking some bold looks at what is not likely to happen, but what is plausible to happen in week one. Because as you know, once the real action starts, everything goes out the window. Everything that we've been predicting and prognosticating and pontificating on Twitter about is going to mean jack shit when the first kick is launched into the air.
I love this. You know what? That's just the NFL schedule starting on Thursday. We're in college football season. We're on football overload. We got Thursday college football. We have Friday college football. We got Saturday college football. We got Sunday college football, and then we get the NFL kicking off Thursday. This is what we have been waiting for so long. It is upon us, and I'm loving every minute of this.
I need new pants.
Mad respect for you at 8,000 words. I don't even know if I know 8,000 words. Let's be honest. If you
be fair, I did repeat quite a few of them, like the and them and football and fantasy. I used those a lot, but yeah, 8,000 words was. I think it was appropriately length for just what I had to cover. I wanted kind of a magnum opus, so to speak, for everybody to be able to go and scroll down to their favorite team or their division and kind of figure out what my thought process was. I don't know if you care about my thought process, but I thought a lot about each team. And even though some of the teams I really didn't want to put too much thought and research into, the Houston Texans, for example, I really don't give a crap about the Houston Texans, but I wanted to give them at least a realistic vision for, my brain's already creative, but I wanted to pay homage to all 32 NFL teams and kind of give just a process. I just kind of thought it up, went through week to week and said, okay, what's this season going to look like? And I think that it touched on a lot of things that are pretty wild and crazy when you look at it and you're like, what if that does happen? I mean, that some of them are downright crazy. Like I predicted the Chargers to win the Super Bowl, and everybody knows that the Chargers are the best choking franchise in the history of the league. Like they get so far all the time, and they never get anything to show for it.
That is true. And you know what? That first week of the NFL season is probably the most unpredictable one. Remember last year, I think it was Jacksonville knocked off Indianapolis week 1, shocked the world. College football, Virginia Tech, it'll enter Sandman down there, knocked off North Carolina to the 10 seed. This is the week. If you're going to pick up those upsets here right now, if you're into that betting, this is the week to kind of get those teams, get those home teams to get there, because traveling, especially if you see those teams traveling from west to east, we know what that's like. We've seen that history here, and I'm looking forward to everything this week. Everything going down, because even I hate to say, that one game that's kind of prime. We'll get into these bold takes. I'll talk about games when we get there, but there's some interesting games here that are going to be. I think there's some primetime upsets in the making here. Let's put it that way. So if you can't tell right now, if you're just listening to the audio right now, Bo's just on mute there. He's killing it though. What he was saying there, you couldn't hear it, but it was absolutely on point.
Gold. That's gold, Jerry. Gold. But what I was saying is I agree with you. There's a lot of great matchups to look at. And like I wrote about last year, I'm pretty sure I wrote about this last year. I write a lot. You know this firsthand from the Dynasty Vipers. Bo likes to write. He writes a lot of crap. And I wrote last preseason about how everybody's an expert starting in week 2. And in week 1, nobody knows jack shit. Even the best of the best analysts, they don't know anything about what's going to happen in week 1. And so I'm anxious to see what kinds of wrongs I had and what you had and what everybody on Twitter had for week 1. A lot of people are going to have to either delete some old takes, or they're going to probably just, some of the good ones will own up to it, be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And yeah, week 1 is to nail down the upsets. And I think there are some edges to have, because there's some teams out there that made big improvements that are off the radar. And there's good teams that kind of rested on their laurels. That might cost them week 1. So Matt, I want to know what your first week 1 hot take is.
My first week 1 hot take is the Detroit Lions start the season off 1-0. Where they knock off San Francisco. We just talked about that traveling from west to east.
We
know what's going on there. We saw this. We all made fun of everyone last year when everyone said, well, there was those odd people that just maybe they're just out there throwing hot takes out there, seeing what happens. The thing is with a hot take, if you go so far out there, you know what? If you're wrong, so what? You're wrong. You're expected to be wrong. But if you nail it, you are going streaking. You know what I'm saying? You're going out there. You got to get those stretchy sweatpants on, whatever is easy to get off.
Gray sweatpants pulled all the way down.
There are no expectations for the Lions. Let's be honest. This is a San Francisco thing. And you know what? I don't even think San Francisco fans would argue with me, because they might be like, yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're a real dingus here.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
They're like, you know what? He's got a point here. If the 49ers lose with Garoppolo, maybe that'll expedite Lance there a little bit quick. You know what? This might work. This could work. This may be crazy enough to work. But
they're connecting the strings.
Exactly. And I'm out there. I'm trying to do this. My mind works a little bit differently. Now you got my hand talking. When my hands start moving and I'm talking, I'm into the zone. I'm getting going here. But Dan Campbell, if this team is buying into what Dan Campbell's feeding them, and they take that kind of viewer of how their coach is, and that's how they play. Look at Miami last year. They all started playing the way Flores wanted to play. They took how their coach was, they brought that into what they do every day. If the Lions start doing that, they start biting kneecaps out there. And 49ers, this is a good 49ers team. I think they can still win this division. That division is going to be crazy, but I think this is that one game that is. I've got the 49ers pick right now to be my survivor pick. that means they're probably going to lose. That's how this works. That's how my survivor.
I like how you're hedging with a hot take. This is perfect because, I mean,
Absolutely.
my convoluted mind is kind of thinking along those same lines. Maybe not the same game, but I'm so happy to hear you say that because I hate the 49ers with passion. I've born, raised, still live right in the heart of 49ers country, and I hate them. I grew up a Cowboys fan when the triplets were on fire in the early 90s, and everybody else in my family, everybody in my hometown is either a 49ers fan or a few of them are Raider fans because they were in Oakland most of the time. But it's just I hate the 49ers with such a passion. In my PICANTakes article, the big one, I actually predicted the 49ers to beat my Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs, and it broke my heart to predict it. But I do think the 49ers have a very good team, and I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to shit the bed the first couple weeks in seemingly great matchups, which will pave the way for Trey Lance to have a monster final 3/4 to 2/3 of the season because he's too good in a system that's catered for him to not be at his peak pretty quickly on. And as far as Detroit, I think that they can win in the trenches. That's a team that has started with the priority to address the offensive line with Penei Sewell. They addressed the defensive line. Their defense is still going to be pretty bad, but Jared Goff's not terrible. He's bad for fantasy because he doesn't take shots. He's just that low risk guy that he can win games though. He can win games. He's not a dumb quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but he also doesn't make very many big plays. And if Swift can go, that's going to be the big question. If Swift can go and Hawkinson's out there doing what he does, and one of these young wide receivers that nobody's really paying attention to does step up, then yeah, it could very well happen because Jimmy Garoppolo is terrible. Like everybody thinks Jared Goff is terrible. I'd take Jared Goff in a heartbeat over Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, and Calvin there kind of nails it here a little bit later. The sooner Lance gets in, the sooner he can get this offense clicking. He's got a great schedule down the stretch there for fantasy purposes. But it's not like let's talk about this. I'm going to take a shot here at Calvin here, and we've talked about this before. He's in the chat room. I actually like the Lions wide receiver core better than what I like the Saints wide receiver core with Michael Thomas not in there. So you're looking at guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're talking about Tyrell Williams, who's a very serviceable wide receiver. You've got TJ Hawkinson. You've got DeAndre Swift catching the balls out of the backfield. You've got a pretty good offense, even with Jared Goff calling signals. He's no Matt Stafford by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but this isn't a terrible team. It's not a good team, but it's a team I think that could surprise from game to game. I'm not going to say they're going to do anything special when it's all like they'll be lucky, I think, to win 4 games when it's all said and done, but they're not going to go 0-17 or 1-16 like some people may be throwing out there right now. And you know, Axel Foley, he went to Beverly Hills, but his heart was still in Detroit. So, you know, if Detroit is good enough for Axel Foley, if he's going to throw that Letterman jacket on the Detroit Lions, I'm still riding with Axel.
Hey, man, that you can't really go wrong if Axel is Detroit approved. I'm not as bullish on the Lions overall this season, but I can definitely see the plausibility for that week 1 upset. And that's an amazingly hot take because a lot of people are predicting the 49ers to go pretty deep this year, and nobody thinks the Lions are going to be good. It's just like they're in a tough division, and they have a dearth of talent on their defense, and their offense is improving, but it's got Jared Goff instead of Matthew Stafford. So let's see. My first week 1 hot take, I'm going to come out right with it. I mean, everybody's been like just kind of they're trying to tickle my bones here. They're trying to rile me up by slandering the name of the unicorn, the mystical creature known as Kyle Pitts, saying that he's going to flatline the week 1. He's not going to jump out to a good start. And my response to that is, how wouldn't he? We're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles here. If he was going up against the Rams or something in week 1, I'd be like, yeah, maybe we moderate expectations for week 1 because that defense is for real. But the Eagles defense, as we saw in the preseason, especially against the Jets of all teams, they looked awful. Like they couldn't stop anybody. And this was one of the least athletic teams in the front 7. that was in the whole NFL last year. Look what Tyler Higbee did to them week 2 last year. Tyler Higbee is one of the least athletic tight ends that starts for an NFL team. And he had 3 touchdowns against the Philadelphia Eagles, who did very little to improve that defense. So I'm saying, how can't Kyle Pitts put up a gigantic performance with the volume he's expected to get in that game, which I think would be a high-scoring game. And I think Kyle Pitts is actually going to be the tight end 1 for week 1.
What if I told you that Russell Gage is everything that we want Kyle Pitts to be? If I threw that right back at you, I think Kyle Pitts is going to be a fantastic tight end. But that first-year tight end, it does worry me a little bit. If you look at some of these tight ends we've hyped up over the years. Now, we could say Kyle Pitts is in a special class, but Vernon Davis was special too coming out.
Yeah.
We all seen the freak of nature that he was. So if you kind of take a look at it, some of the better tight end 1 years as a rookie, Ingram, 64 catches, 722 yards, 6 touchdowns as a rookie. Jeremy Shockey, 74 receptions, 894 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gronk, 42 receptions, 546 yards, 10 touchdowns. That is the top end right there.
Right.
Those are the top 3 tight end rookie seasons of all time. Now, tight ends drafted in the top 10, Vernon Davis, 20 receptions, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns. TJ Hawkinson drafted in the top 10, 32 receptions, 367 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eric Ebron, 25 receptions, 248 yards, 1 touchdown. I think realistically an Evan Ingram type season is what to expect from Kyle Pitts year 1, maybe a little bit more. People forget how good Evan Ingram was as a rookie. He was a very good option for the Giants in that passing game. I would not, but Pitts here in 8 games in Florida, 770 yards, 12 touchdowns. He is a different.
He scored a touchdown. He scored a touchdown on 13% of his targets. That's insane.
43 receptions and 12 were touchdowns. But yeah.
And I'm not going to discount what you said about rookie tight ends. It's all true. Vernon Davis, I think, was an outlier because he was that physical freak of nature. And the only reason he didn't produce his rookie season is he had some pretty significant injuries. But when he was on the field, there was no doubt that they wanted to get him the ball because he was so special. And the other guys weren't any less special than Vernon Davis, I would say. But what I'm arguing with Kyle Pitts is he's special and he has a role that's specialized compared to the other rookie tight ends. And I'll stop you right there. Kyle Pitts is not a tight end. He never has been. He, in fact, his sophomore year, his second year, 2 years ago, didn't even qualify for the Mackey Award because he didn't log enough snaps at tight end. So,
but he did qualify for the Blitnikoff.
Yes, and he qualified for Blitnikoff because that's just pass catcher. They say, "Oh, who's the best pass catcher in the nation?" And of course, if you're going up against Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith, who went bonkers, it's going to be tough to win the Blitnikoff. But you also have a guy who's 6'6", 245, which is already rare, and then the guy runs a 4.4. Yeah, runs a 4.4, has an 84-inch wingspan. He has a 35-inch vertical leap. He hasn't dropped a single pass in his college career. And his red zone target percentage of him catching it is 100%. Every time he's been targeted in the red zone in his career, or at least last year, I think that's the stat, 2020, all of his red zone targets resulted in a catch. 100% catch rate. He's not something we've ever seen before. He's not even close to a tight end. He's a receiver who happens to be as big as a tight end, who lines up at the H-back a lot to get him underneath coverage, and he's good at it. He's really good at it. He runs routes like a wide receiver. He's big like Megatron. He's fast like Megatron, and he also gets put in an offense that is really starving for receiver talent behind Calvin Ridley. Gage is a really solid option. I don't think Gage is going to fall off at all. But I do think that massive void left by Julio Jones is mostly going to be eaten up by Pitts with a small tick up for Gage and Ridley. And if you have a guy that special and you took him 4th overall, ahead of a defensive player, ahead of Jamar Chase, I'm pretty sure they knew they weren't going to be able to keep Julio. They weren't going to want to keep Julio. They're going to try to trade him or release him as a cap casualty. And so there you go. That's my argument. Kyle Pitts, tight end 1 in week 1 because they're playing the Eagles and they're going to want to show off their shiny new top 4 pick. in front of the world. And in poor Philly, they're gonna take a beating from it.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to be defending him there. It might be Eric Wilson. He might be their best option, and that's not good if you're an Eagles fan. You know what I mean? It was thin to begin with. There, you're not going to put a safety on him. You're not going to put a lot. Who do you defend him with? You're going to have to use some sort of a bracket coverage on a tight end, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and now who's going to bracket Ridley?
Yeah, exactly. Pick your poison here.
Yeah, and that's my whole thing with Pitts is that he's not somebody you're going to be able to cover one-on-one no matter who you are. And you have to worry about Calvin Ridley because look at what he did without Julio last year. He was dominant. He's an insanely good route runner, field stretcher. He's a threat in the red zone. And my prediction for Pitts in week 1 is 9 catches for 117 and 2 touchdowns. Because I think that the main reason they were saying, hey, we want something special with our top 4 pick instead of addressing a terrible defense or replacing Julio Jones or even thinking for the future and picking one of the quarterbacks to replace Matt Ryan eventually, is they were like, hey, what did we never really solve when Julio was here? It was scoring touchdowns at the goal line or in the red zone. They couldn't do it. Like every time they went to Julio, he was double covered, being tackled in the corner of the end zone. They would rather get a flag than let Julio score on them. And you saw that in their numbers. They were kicking tons of field goals or turning it over instead of scoring touchdowns. And guess what? You put a guy that's that big and that fast and that great at high pointing the ball and catching the ball in space or catching the ball in tight quarters and contested catches. That's the reason they drafted him, is they wanted a guy to post up and just dominate in the red zone.
They basically drafted a younger Julio. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, a bigger, a little bit slower Julio. Julio is a generational wide receiver. Let's not get it wrong. He's one of the best wide receivers overall that I've ever seen. But Pitts has the potential. I mean, we always talk about Kyle Pitts' potential because we haven't seen him on the NFL field yet. He has the potential to be Julio Jones in that offense.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why they made that move. I think that's why Julio, they did him the courtesy of letting him go to a contender. We know Matt Ryan's going to throw that ball up 700 times this year. He was darn close to doing it last year. Things ain't getting any better for him, so we'll see how this all shapes out. What else you got? What else is hot?
All right, so I think if we're talking hot, I want to call an upset too. You fired one over the bow with an upset pick, and I have another one for you. We're talking. I don't know. Is this an upset? Because I think that the LA Chargers are going to go in and beat the Washington football team. Is that an upset?
I would say so to a degree because we're seeing that the game's in Washington. You're having that team going from the west to the east. That never works out well for those West Coast teams. You've got a dominant Montez Sweat with a Chase Young, that front with Deron Payne. You know what? This is probably the best front in all of the National Football League, without a question.
Scary.
I love what Washington's done. They build within the trenches. They've been doing this for a few years. Last year, the biggest knock on the Chargers was that offensive line. Justin Herbert, I think, was hit more than any other quarterback in the league. Didn't necessarily lead to sacks, but he was hit more than anyone else. Now, the Chargers, they did go out to their credit. They drafted well. They got Slater there from Northwestern. The kid's going to be an absolute fantastic addition. They went out through free agency, add some more guys on that offensive line. So they're taking care. They know where their bread is buttered in L.A., right? They know they got to protect Justin Herbert. Herbert's letting his hair grow back long. People are back in love with him. He doesn't look like the kid off of Toy Story anymore there that's burning things with the magnifying glass.
Sid.
He's got that flow. He's got that flow going back.
He's not Sid in the backyard anymore.
But I don't think it's a huge upset to call because we know this Chargers team is talented. You look at across the board, you got Austin Eckler there, who is a mismatch. You've got Keenan Allen, who is one of the most disrespected wide receivers in the game, and B, one of the best, if not the best, route runner in the game. It's hard to stay on Keenan Allen. And I think the thing that people are forgetting right now is when Allen went down, Herbert was forced to look elsewhere to make those passes. Early in the season, he was force feeding Keenan Allen. Everyone picked up on this. When Allen went down, Herbert didn't miss a beat. He found other ways to get other players involved. And now bringing Allen back into that, I think this Chargers offense is even going to be better than it was last year. And I think that's something we're not talking about nearly enough. So I think they could definitely go into Washington to win. Washington was 7-9 last year. Don't fact check me, but they're barely above 500. So, you got Ryan and
they
Ryan
weren't. They were under 500. That whole division was a dumpster fire.
It was. I think
and I'm looking at it now, and it's not technically an upset yet because it's Chargers -1, which a road favorite. That's surprising because Washington's defense is really good, but I mean their weak spot is pass catching running backs. And guess what? The Chargers got a pretty stinking good one in Austin Eckler there.
Yeah, but
if I'm going to pivot, I'm going to pick a better upset. I do think the Browns are going to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. I do.
You know what? This is fun. I love you mentioned that because you look at this AFC conference as a whole. It was one or two teams before. You'd be, the Chiefs and whoever else they're going to face, the Chiefs and the Patriots or whoever. Now you look at this conference, and it is more formidable than what you see in the NFC. You've got a team that was 8-8 in the Raiders last year, who is probably the 12th best team in the division. They had 12 teams in the AFC that were 500 or better. And in fact, the Raiders were one of the teams that, I think it was the Raiders and the Chargers, that knocked off the Chiefs last year in a game that actually mattered. I think the game against the Chargers didn't really matter. It was that towards the end of the season. Nothing was kind of up for grabs at the point, but the Raiders knocked off the Chiefs. There is so much parity in that AFC. You can say all you want about the Chiefs and how good they are, and they are. They're fantastic. They've got their top two options in the passing game in Kelsey. And Tyreek Hill. They've got an okay running back in Edwards-Helaire. You got obviously Mahomes. You don't need to say anything else about him. But then you've got the Bills and what they're doing. Then you got the Browns and what they're doing. You look at what Tennessee does there. You can't discount Indianapolis, even with Carson Wentz. They're going to be factoring into this equation somewhere. That North Division there with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, as well as the Browns, they were all over 500 last year. I think all three of those teams had 10-plus wins. So, and if you look at that Chiefs schedule, that is not a good schedule for
It's brutal.
It is horrible.
It's brutal.
There's like two easy games that you go, those are easy wins for them. You can't look at the Browns. This is a lot of teams' sexy pick to win the AFC. And you know what? You add Jadeveon Clowney there to Myles Garrett on the defense. How fast? This is maybe the fastest defense in the AFC. And if you're going to play a team like the Chiefs, you need that speed on defense. We know what they can do. But the Browns can do this offensively too. They've got weapons. If Odell Beckham is anything like he used to be, he doesn't have to be
80%. We just need 80% OBJ.
You're going to get consistency in Jarvis Landry. You got Kareem Hunt. You got Nick Chubb. This game gets to the fourth quarter and it's close. The Browns are going to be able to grind that clock down. And no Willie Gay for the Chiefs. That's a huge blow. Willie Gay is an athletic linebacker. He's out for the first 3 weeks. He's on IR off the get-go. That takes a little bit of that athleticism off of the Chiefs defense. And Choo-Choo Chubba, whatever you want to call it, man, he's going to get in there and he's going to do so. I think he's averaging 5.3 yards per carry over his career already. And then I think that number goes up insane in the fourth quarter. So
he's what they call good at football. Nick Chubb is one of the best pure running backs overall in the whole league. You can't argue that Nick Chubb isn't just special at the running back position. Every facet that you can possibly do. That running game in general is lethal. And I think they're going to just early and often shove it right down the Chiefs' throat. And the Chiefs, I don't think their run defense is that good. Their pass defense is pretty good. Like their corners were really solid last year, all year, maybe except for when the Bucks got to them at late in that Week 10 game, where it was like, they figured something out. They attacked the slot position and they didn't go after the outside as much. This is a game where I'm circling it because it's a big spread. The Chiefs are huge home favorites, but think about every year who lost the Super Bowl? What do they do the first couple of weeks? They shit the bed. And I don't know what it is about it, but the Chiefs have a whole new offensive line, which I think is better. They got Orlando Brown at left tackle. That's a big upgrade over Eric Fisher, even when he was healthy. Eric Fisher wasn't that good. He was a high draft pick, but he wasn't anything special at left tackle. That offensive line was getting pretty peppered around even before Fisher hurt himself. And Mahomes is special, of course, but you saw in the playoffs and especially in the Super Bowl is you put a little heat on him, and those decisions that turn into miracles get fewer and farther between. And if you don't know this already, but it's very noteworthy that Mahomes only threw, I think, 7 interceptions all season. He had 20 dropped interceptions. 20. That's the most in the league. And even if half of those are caught, we're talking about a whole different ballgame. The Chiefs relied heavily on a very positive turnover differential last year. And even if it flips 50% this year, where they're not quite as fortunate, their whole season could go up in flames because they're not good enough to win games when they lose the turnover battle. It's the schedule's too hard for that.
Bottom line, I think this game here comes down to the interior of the Browns. Why the interior, do you ask? You know what I'm saying? What's so special about the interior? The one thing all quarterbacks hate is pressure right in their face where they can't step up in the pocket. If Andrew Billings and Malik Jackson, if they can hold down that fort, and when Clowney and Garrett are coming to meet the quarterback in the backfield, if there's nowhere for Mahomes to step up or run around him, like Clowney and Garrett, they can run with you. They can run with Mahomes. I'm not worried about Mahomes break and contain on these two guys unless they're coming in too hot. It's if Mahomes has the ability to step up and then slide over, then he's going to be dangerous. But if these guys could hold down and anchor down, this could be a huge feather in the Browns' cap early in the season and set the tone for the entire 2021 season for them.
Yeah, I mean, I can just see it now where the Browns run the ball very successfully. They get up to a small lead, and then they start pressing Mahomes with some disguised blitzing, and they get him off his spot, and they might give up some big plays as a result of being aggressive. But at the same time, if they're leading, they're going to be aggressive in an intelligent manner and force Mahomes to be aggressive just to stay in the game and keep his team from falling behind too far. I'm afraid that Mahomes is going to try to take over the game himself if they fall behind, and it's going to work against him because that, like you said, that is a very athletic defense, and there really aren't too many weaknesses. Last year, their weakness was at middle linebacker, and guess what? That kid out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's special. That kid is he's a missile. He's going to find the ball, and he's going to hit the ball.
I don't know if he's there yet, but when I did a draft preview for him, I said the Browns got him for Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. That is why they drafted this kid, because he is that hybrid linebacker, safety, that Jeremy Chin, that Kyle Duggar type player. You know, he could play. I think he played 250. You're a Notre Dame guy. I think he was 210, 215 playing linebacker for the Irish last year. So he was a little undersized linebacker. But dude, he ain't undersized when he makes contact. You feel that in the morning. You're definitely going to know you're in a dogfight there. So I think
what's that? I just heard him hit somebody else. I can hear it from here.
Absolutely. But I think that's a low key. The Browns must have been laughing when they got him in the draft where they got him, because he is what you want to put on these top tight ends. We talk about these mismatch creators. Travis Kelce is a matchup nightmare for defenses. Darren Waller, matchup nightmare. Kyle Pitts is going to be a matchup nightmare. You need that guy to cover that nightmare. You need that dream maker, so to speak.
Yep. I completely agree. Koramoah is, or JOK as they call him, he's the reason why the reason they drafted him is because A, he's a great player, and B, that was the really only that was really got kind of hit last year in their playoff game against the Chiefs. This is a rematch of that very close game where it was in their heads. The Chiefs were a little bit panicky there with their backup quarterback running around. They were shitting bricks for a little bit there. And so we're talking about a team that matches up well with the Chiefs, and there's not many out there. There really aren't. There's a handful of teams that can go toe to toe with Kansas City, and one of them happens to be the Cleveland Browns, and that's why I think they're just going to pull it off. They're going to go in there and win by a field goal or even a touchdown, and we're going to have a great game on our hands.
I don't know. I don't want to get Browns fans a little excited here, but I think they were literally one Daniel Sorensen missed call away from going to the Super Bowl, from beating the Chiefs.
Absolutely true. Damn it, Sorensen. Wasn't his fault. So, you have anything else for this week one? We got a lot of exciting games. I mean, I know you want to talk about that riveting matchup between the Jags and Texans.
This is going to be a fun one to watch. You know what? It's in our human nature when we see an accident that we know is going to be ugly, we have to watch it. We all do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You know,
you're all rubberneckers. Don't even deny it.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I think this is that matchup here. But it's not just that. I think we want to see what Trevor Lawrence can do. I personally want to make sure that James Robinson is who he is, who I think he is, who I believe him to be. I don't think, here's a hot take, I don't think Travis Etienne was going to take Robinson's job from him this year.
Thank you.
I think I was going to say James Robinson is Chris Carson. No, I think Travis Etienne could be Rashad Penny. That's where I'm going to go with this. I don't think James Robinson's going to give it up. You know what? No. The guy's an undrafted free agent. He put it out there. I know draft capital says one thing, but like Chris Carson, there's a lot of dog in James Robinson. He ain't going to give up that position.
So much dog.
He is that, you know what I mean? 1,000 yards, undrafted, comes into there. Yeah, the volume was there and this and that. He came into camp even in better shape than he was last year. He has something to prove. And from all accounts of the training camp, yeah, Etienne was getting mixed in there. It was about a 60-40 split. But I think a majority of those touches in the run game were going to go to James Robinson. So I want to see him absolutely dominate. I want to see how this wide receiver group shapes out for Jacksonville as well, because there's a lot of fantasy guys that are kind of, okay, is it Marvin Jones? Is it DJ Chark? Is it Visca Chenault? Who is it going to be? And you know what? I think I have to give a slight edge to Visca there simply because there's not a tight end in the building right now. There's no Travis Etienne right now. So I think the injury to Etienne probably helps Visca more than it helped James Robinson, because I think James Robinson was going to have that role. I don't know if Visca was going to have as predominant a role with Etienne in the lineup as he has going forward. Now, we know that Urban Meyer teams, they like to play with speed. He showed this at Florida. He showed this at Ohio State. Even his Utah teams from way back when were fantastic to watch. Very athletic teams. I think he's trying to do that in Jacksonville. We'll see how that actually works out for him. I think that's why they got Travis Etienne, creates those mismatches. But I don't think this Jaguars offensive line was that bad. I think they're about middle of the pack last year. They still had 1,000-yard rusher more than some teams, just putting it out there. So obviously,
1,000-yard rusher when they were playing from behind every game. I mean, that says a lot. The J-Rob was undrafted, gets thrown in from fourth string to first string all at once. I mean, you got Fournette, then you had an injury, and then a COVID illness that unfortunately resulted in a semi-retirement. And all of a sudden, J-Rob goes from undrafted fourth string running back, probably slated for the practice squad, and now he's getting 92% of the snaps running back for the Jags, who are terrible on defense, and they're behind in just about every game. And guess what? They still ran the damn ball pretty well.
And I know on the flip side, we love to make fun of the Texans, don't we? We love to take shots at them every chance we get.
Worst franchise in pro sports right now. And
but
they earned it. They earned it.
They did. They did some good work to get to where they got to. But you think about this team right now, they're not in terrible shape. You know, you got Brandon Cooks out there. You got Anthony Miller. You got Chris Conley. It's not what you want it to be, but, you know, Brandon Cooks is good. Tyrod Taylor, as long as he stays away from the medical staff, they don't poke holes in his lungs, maybe he comes out and plays. But what I want to see is, with this whole Deshaun Watson cloud over Houston, how are these players going to respond? What is their mentality going into this? You know, you got David Culley coming over as a head coach. You had Justin Reed, who has voiced his concern over the last couple seasons, saying this is the most fun he's had at camp.
Yeah, because he got to kick off.
He got kick field goals or kick off in a game. You know what I mean? You know,
he was still trying to get in on extra points, but they didn't let him do that. They let him kick off twice, and he damn near got to the end zone both times. So I'm pretty impressed with Justin.
They were good kicks. I think they were only returned about the 22, 23-yard line. You know, it was a great kick, a little coffin corner type action to try and pin him deep. But, you know, when you got your players willing to play for you, again, just like the Lions, their backs against the wall, there's nothing to prove. Everyone's got them going 1-16. When's that win going to come? Well, you know what? This win could come against the Jaguars. You know, a lot of people are down on the Jags this year, too. They've got them picked as a 3-win team, 4-win team. This is an opportunity for Houston. Catch them off guard here, first game of the season. And, I'm looking at them, and if they can get that running game, I think David Johnson's probably on the trade block. They're listening to David Johnson right now. I don't know where he's going to go, where he fits. That contract kind of makes it hard to do anything with. But, Mark Ingram, David Johnson.
They're going to trade him for a bag of balls and a bag of Doritos.
Well, I'd make sure they're practice balls, so I don't think I'd give up any game balls for him.
No, not the genuine leather. Don't give up for the genuine leather. Definitely not any kicker balls. I got to disagree with you here. I think Jacksonville's going to absolutely curb stomp the Texans. And I think the only chance they're going to have to win any games is going to be against Jacksonville and Tennessee, because Tennessee's defense is equally bad. And you might get them in a shootout where they just score last. But Houston is terrible. Like they have 13 running backs still, and they're out of their 53 players that they rostered. That's not good, because David Johnson followed by everybody else. It's just ugly. Like Tyrod Taylor's never been great. He's never been really average. He's been athletic and makes big plays on it every once in a while. And Brandon Cooks is amazing. He's got all his 1,000-yard seasons, but we're talking about Brandon Cooks with the Texans had a 1,000-yard season from Deshaun Watson, who's a top 5 quarterback. Tyrod Taylor might be a top 35 quarterback, but that's about as far as I'm willing to go. I don't think Texans win a game this year, and I think that I'm going to bet on their opponent to cover the spread most of the time.
I just find it hilarious now. Brandon Cooks has kind of gone from like where his bar was set low at Jared Goff. You know what I mean? That was kind of like the low bar. And you didn't think it could get any lower. Enter Tyrod Taylor. But
or Davis Mills. You don't know how long until Tyrod gets tricked into the back of a van with somebody with a syringe. You never know how long it's going to take. Houston's medical staff might be just Jack Easterby with a rattlesnake. You don't know what's going to happen.
That might not be the worst thing at this point. He may be asking for the staff to come take care of him.
Yeah. I'm still getting paid, right? Your mustache is majestic, Matt. I got to keep saying it. It's
hard to keep your eyes off it, though, right? Like if people,
I've been watching it the whole time. I can't even listen to what you're saying right now.
You can't even tell my lips are moving half the time. That's how much it takes up. If I dyed it purple, it'd be like that purple monster in like Monsters University. You know what?
Yeah. That's the one.
A little bit of walking action.
Actually,
there.
I think you look just like the dad in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I've heard that. I've heard the Lorax too. The Lorax has come up in a couple times.
Oh yeah, if you went orange, you could definitely be the Lorax, which is Danny DeVito, that's pretty funny.
We can definitely work it.
Yeah, I think the dad on you don't even have to change anything to be the dad on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. All you have to do is furrow your brow a little bit, and then there you go. So and then you gotta sardines. Yeah, you gotta find a fishing metaphor to say it throughout there. Sometimes when you cast your line, you're never gonna catch anything.
And there we've got our soundbite for the show right there on that.
Yeah. Craig Reith, we need you right now for a GIF. We gotta put Dingus on the blast for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Dad.
Let's get a picture for him here. There we go. Little shot for him.
So I mean, there's lots of upsets to be had. Do you think there's any huge individual fantasy performances that you might be targeting if you were allowed to play DFS up in Canada?
So my one I'm targeting right now, and this is going to be maybe a bold take. I think the number one stack this week is going to be Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson going up against the
Revenge game.
Like you're talking about they almost connected for 1,000 yards when they were together. They're in with the Jets a couple seasons ago.
With Adam Gase
making the play calls. Now, I think this is going to be a fantastic game to watch. Why? Because you got Zach Wilson there hooking up with Elijah Moore, Corey Davis season. It's always Corey Davis season. And you know what? Jamison Crowder, they've got some offensive weapons there with the Jets. I'm interested to see. But on the flip side, I love everything about Carolina. I think Carolina is my sleeper Super Bowl team. I think they have that ability. They've got a good defense. You want hot takes? Carolina's where I'm going for hot takes. I think they could be in contention for a Super Bowl run this year. They've been building that defense. It's a great defense. They've got the pieces that can match with anyone in the league. If that offense, if Sam Darnold can get a little bit of protection, he doesn't see ghosts, if he can be serviceable, and we use that term loosely, it's no different than me saying if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't lose games, the Broncos could be a wild card team. Very easy, good defense. Maybe Carolina. You know what? You've got Christian McCaffrey. You've got Terrace Marshall, who's going to be the number one wide receiver in Carolina, I think, when it's all said and done. You got DJ Moore. You got Robbie Anderson. This is a good team to watch. They've got some weapons. There's no excuses for Sam Darnold. He never had these kind of toys in New York.
Oh, no. Not even close. When we were talking about, for a while there, Sam Darnold was looking for Chris Herndon, who actually is probably a mythical creature of some kind, because nobody's actually seen him in 3 years.
No.
And I agree with you in Carolina. If you sift through all the pages of my PICANTakes article, you'll see that I have them getting second place behind the Bucks in that NFC South. And it's because Joe Brady is an offensive genius. Sam Darnold he's mistake prone. He has been all the way back to USC, but he's never had this many toys. He's never had a Christian McCaffrey, who's easily out of just running back ability, a top 5 player. For fantasy, he's number 1. And he's got DJ Moore, who, look at it. He's the youngest 1,200-yard receiver in the history of the league, 24 years old. And he hasn't even scratched the surface of what he's capable of because he hasn't scored very many touchdowns. And then you have Robbie, who's got the personal vibe going. Like him and Sam Darnold still have that telepathy and the commissary of playing under Adam Gase together. They're going to have fun with Joe Brady. And I do agree with you on Terrace Marshall, because I don't know if he's the wide receiver 1 for the season, because I think that's still DJ Moore. But I absolutely think he could go off, and my stack for week 1 is Sam Darnold and Terrace Marshall, because I'm talking about saving money and spending up on running backs and wide receivers that you really want. That's the way to do it.
I think the reason I love Robbie Anderson so much is he reminds me of Shorty from Scary Movie. You know what I mean? With the hair going everywhere. I'm like,
that's a good one. That's really good.
I think that's the best comparison. Like, if you talk about player comps, Shorty's player comp is Robbie Anderson. But you look at what Carolina's done. Their biggest drawback last year was probably the corner position, where Dante Jackson was their number 1 option. Well, they went out and they got maybe my favorite cornerback in the draft this year. I know you love the draft. J.C. Horn is a freak when it comes to that position.
It hurt my heart.
I love him.
It hurt my heart.
Watch him slide down. Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy I wanted the Raiders to somehow get, because I loved everything that he could do. But you look at what they've done on the defensive side. You got Brian Burns there. You've got Derek Brown. They got him out of Auburn. They've been built like the class the year before was all defense. Jeremy Chin. Yeah, they brought in Daquan Jones at tackle from Tennessee this year.
That's a big boy.
Hassan Reddick. So now you've got Burns and you've got Reddick coming off the edges. Are you kidding
scary.
me? That's going to be fantastic TV to watch. I love Carolina. They're my little dark horse sleeper team to win it all.
And look at, just like we gave all the credit to Joe Brady for revamping that offense, but give the credit to Matt Rule. Like, him and that front office have really put together a solid team, a very young team, a very unpolished team. But who's to say that they're not the team that takes that step early, like the Milwaukee Bucks did in the NFL and the NBA? Like, nobody expected the Bucks to be ready to win it all. That's happened. Like, we were like, hey, the Bucks are they're maybe a year away because they don't have all the pieces together. Or the Phoenix Suns, even, who made it really far. The Phoenix Suns were definitely a year or two away from expectations of that kind of success. Maybe the Panthers are the Phoenix Suns of the NFL this year.
Well, how often do we see in the NFL right now teams go from worst to first? Now, I think the 49ers are that team this year. I think they were 6-10 last year.
Yes.
Injuries kind of derailed them. They're probably the odds-on favorite to go worst to first. I know Carolina wasn't worse because you've got Atlanta to thank for that. But you know what? I think they're better than, obviously, the Saints. I think they're obviously better than Atlanta. And I think they're going to be contending with the Bucks right down to the wire here, because they do some stuff that, like I mentioned, if you've got a pass rush, you've got a team.
Yep. You're absolutely right. And if you can go toe to toe with the best offenses, even if your defense has a bad game or a tough matchup, that offense is going to be, they're going to be firing off some. I definitely think Sam Darnold's going to set a career high in passing yards. I think he's going to set a career high in passing yards for a game right off the bat in this revenge game. Because if we know anything about the Jets, is that they improved on offense, but their defense is still absolutely terrible. There's no way their defense is going to do it, especially losing Carl Lawson before he played a single snap for him.
And you know what? This may be one of the most affordable stacks when you're looking at DFS too.
Yes. Well, Darnold's 5,000 on DraftKings, and I believe Terrace Marshall is 3,000, which is the min price for a wide receiver.
Then
And
Robbie
then you
Anderson.
have Robbie's like 4 something, which is still not cost prohibitive by any stretch. And in a tournament, nobody's going to be on Robbie Anderson. Not a soul.
Not anymore, unless they're watching the show. If they're watching the show, you might have a lot of people on that Darnold Anderson stack.
So since we have no active viewers at this very moment, I'm going to shout out some not sponsors yet. We are not sponsored yet by Nichols Farms. It's Jimmy Nichols is a client of my wife's company, and so if you haven't had Jimmy Nichols nuts in your mouth, you're missing out, guys.
Ba-bum-bum.
If you have any nuts in your mouth, make sure they're Jimmy Nichols nuts. These pistachios are off the charts good. They're delicious. They're perfectly roasted. And fun fact is my great aunt for her whole life was a pistachio farmer. So I know good nuts.
And not talk about putting nuts in your mouth.
And look at the viewership.
If you're looking for a good slice, Boston Pizza, you can be sponsoring the NWN here as well. So we'll throw that out.
And of course, I can't have any broadcast on live on a Friday night without my wild turkey. I'm drinking the rare breed barrel proof, 115.8 proof barrel proof rare breed from Wild Turkey. Yeah, so shout out Wild Turkey bourbon. They fuel my Friday nights. And then finally, Big Time Flavor Co., home of the world's most deliciously intense condiment, Hot Box Gourmet Hot Sauce.
And while we're doing shout outs here, shout out to my notes for the show, all on individually white pieces.
Those look like Betty Crocker recipes.
If you can actually read any of this, it is pretty impressive. It's like undecipherable. It's almost like National Treasure trying to read my writing.
Yeah, call in Dr. What's his name from a Da Vinci Code. He's going to figure it out. But what you have are notes there, and I'm actually shocked that you had notes because I gave you about 5 minutes notice to jump on with me, and you jotted down what looks like 50 pages of notes, illegible as they may be. I'm impressed by your preparation.
Well, let's be honest here. We were talking about earlier. We kind of do a little bit of notes. We know what our hot takes already are. I've used these notes to put into my articles, put into my videos and stuff. So I'm just lazy. I haven't cleaned up. That's the problem. These notes are still kind of sitting here from before. Like I've still got empty cans of beverages behind the computer screen, and we got the Sandy water that's empty that's been sitting in a football helmet next to the computer. So
I'm an empty vodka freeze pop container.
There you go. So it's not about being prepared. It's just more like being lazy and getting lucky that what we're talking about pertains to what I had written down.
So guess what shows up in the box score, though? You were prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I'm talking that up.
It's like hitting a bloop single. It's still you. It's a line drive in the box score, baby.
I'm eating W's.
Yeah. Shout out to all the poor Saints fans, all you Louisianans out there. My heart goes out to you guys cleaning up after Hurricane Ida. I can't even imagine. The worst we have in California is earthquakes. And really, when an earthquake goes off here, we're like, oh, cool, the earthquake. That's it. That's all we do. The earth is literally shaking. Our monitors, everything's falling off our shelves if it's a big enough one. And we're just sitting there like, oh, an earthquake. You guys have 150 mile an hour winds and storm surges at 40 feet. I can't even imagine that much water, roof damage, displacement, having to move out of the state for weeks at a time just to clean up.
Florida? Moving to Florida for a week? I don't know what's worse, living through the hurricane or moving to Florida for the week. Sorry, Calvin.
I think at a certain point, you just have to say, wait, let's just wait it out. Let's just get to work and clean this mess up because I don't want to move to Florida. I mean, it's got to be like that for some of them.
Yeah, we get some real day after tomorrow stuff here, like the Statue of Liberty frozen in water. That's about it. We had about -40 here, but you know what? In our community, Bo, and you know this as well as I do, our little circle, which is a smaller circle of a bigger circle. Calvin's part of that Louisiana connection. Alvin Ryan, Cooter Doodle, his and hers. We got a lot of representation down there from the Bayou State. So hearts and prayers and everything, good vibes and everything heading your guys' way here. And those people, I heard Calvin talk about
those people
getting the power back restored and cleaning up after this all. It just kind of proves that, New Orleans and Louisiana as a state is a resilient bunch. And there's no one quite like you all out there.
I know I'm not cut out for that shit.
No, I can handle 40 below up here because I'm built for that. I got like a fur jacket underneath my sweater here. That's how we roll up here. But
so little known fact is Matt's uncle is an actual walrus. So
it is true. It is true. I can't deny it.
Yeah, Uncle Dingus has the thickest whiskers in the family, and it was passed down.
I really should get a picture of me and my old man side by side with the mustaches. You'll see where it comes from. His goes up though.
Oh yeah, his is a happy mustache.
Yeah, his is a happy mustache.
Yeah, and I mean, my dad and I are clones too. We have the same exact beard line. It's actually creepy because of the same beard, eyebrows, and everything. And like, I have side by side of our 30th birthday pictures over our cakes, and you can't even tell us apart. Like we're both wearing. Yeah, go ahead.
I've even got the same hairline as my old man, so we're doing good there.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun to look back and say, oh, wow, I guess that's what I was chalked out to be, huh?
It is what it is.
Hey, I'm built for the provinces too. I mean, I got lots of insulation, and I think last time I went to the mountains and it was probably 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So, I mean, not anywhere near what you guys get, but definitely frozen. And I think the coldest I've been in is 0 degrees. But at the same time, I was out there in basically shorts, a t-shirt, and snow boots, and I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff because I didn't feel cold. It felt good to me. I like how the cold feels on my body.
The cold didn't bother me anyway. No, I'll try not to sing. No Disney, no Frozen.
I'm actually more disturbed trying to put Elsa's face on you when you're saying that.
Yeah, I'm giving Craig all kinds of material here to work with. You know what I mean? If he could use the sound bite behind.
and Craig is going to come up with something better than even we can imagine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm almost afraid of. But you know what? I embrace it. It's all good.
So, Matt, do you have anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Well,
plug your stuff.
As an Alabama fan here, the one thing I can't wait to watch is Roll Tide game there. Mac Jones, Tua, head off, New England, Miami. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. I think that's going to be kind of where a lot of eyes are going to be directed to. We want to see what Tua can do. Is Deshaun Watson going there? We've heard that kind of hover over. Mac Jones won that job outright over Cam Newton, outplayed him at every turn. He gets that opportunity. My hot take for the year is Jacoby Myers finishes top 12 in wide receiver in fantasy football.
And that's the hottest one I've heard. That's the hottest one.
I'm gonna give you some information from week 8 on. He was, I think, don't fact check me here. I think he was wide receiver 13 or 14. It's not, he was right up there. He was averaging 13.1 points per game. If you look at that position, and he's going to play a lot of slot, the slot, whether it's Edelman, whether it was Welker, whether it was Amendola, they were averaging 16.4 points per game. So look out for Jacoby Myers. The hype is real, and he's got the talent to be a number 1 wide receiver. So that was my last bold take to throw out there at you.
And I'm going to add to that. I'm going to add to that because Jacoby Myers put up those numbers without a single touchdown. So, I mean, you talk about regression back to the mean.
Progression has to come in at some point too, right?
I would think so. You can't get worse than 0 touchdowns, especially with the amount of volume he got. But yeah, Mac Jones, that was the hot take I threw out earlier this week that I got a lot of flack for because I did blaspheme Peyton Manning, who's probably my favorite quarterback of all time. I mean, as a person, as a player, I enjoyed watching Peyton Manning play more than any other quarterback in my lifetime. And I'm a huge Cowboys fan, so I grew up watching Troy Aikman. I grew up having to watch Joe Montana and Steve Young my whole life. And I loved watching Peyton Manning more. And I said Mac Jones, with his cerebral approach, he's super smart. Everybody talks about his photographic memory
and his photographic body.
Yes, and his excellent figure and his accuracy. If he throws with anticipation like he did at Alabama, where he completed 72% of his passes last year, that's bonkers. No matter what level you're on, 72% is great, especially when he wasn't exactly just dumping it off to those stud wide receivers. He was reaching out to throw it to him pretty far down the field. Mac Jones, with his intelligence, his ability to process things, if he can learn the pre-snap reads like Peyton Manning did with his accuracy, his ceiling is Peyton Manning. I mean, they actually remind me a lot of one another. Like I look at Mac Jones, I watch his tape, and it's scary how much he compares to Peyton Manning, especially a young Peyton Manning. He doesn't have the name recognition. His daddy wasn't in the NFL, but I mean, good Lord, you watch him play and you think, who does that remind me of? That's the answer I came up with.
Well, I'm not going to quite put him there yet, but I also don't think he's going to throw nearly as many interceptions as Manning did his rookie year. So we'll go with that. I think he's going to have a better rookie year than Manning. I won't say he's going to have a better career than him, but I'll say he'll have a better rookie year.
No, and I'm just going by ability. Like Manning's best skill was never physical. It was never what he did with his throwing power or his legs, mobility or anything. It was always what was between his ears, his processing ability, the way he exploited, the way he prepared for defenses. And I think Mac Jones has that in him. So no, I don't expect him to have that Peyton Manning career, because that was a Hall of Fame career that's hard to match. But his ability wise, he has the potential to, if things break the right way, to go in that same trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So
with that all said,
I mean, I don't love Mac Jones that much, because he's still a rookie with worse wide receivers than he had each of the last 2 years at Alabama. It's been a great night. I'm very appreciative of you, Matt Donnelly FF on Twitter, Dingus, the artist formerly known as Dingus, the Canadian Philip Rivers himself. He's got more kids than he's got common sense. So I'm throwing it to you, Matt. Plug all your stuff. Take as much time as you need. I'm paid by the hour, and I'm not on the radio anymore. So you can drop F-bombs, you can drop H-bombs, you can drop Z-bombs. I don't care what bombs you drop, but I want to know what Matt Donnelly is doing right now and what you're going to be doing this NFL season.
Well, I'm going to drop some DV bombs here. A little Dynasty Viper action for you here.
Love it.
Little show. We got head over to the Vipers Network here, on the YouTube channel. I don't got that. Keep going. That's a nice little beat going on as we're talking here. But we've got some good stuff coming here. We got the Vipercast show with myself and Calvin, who also does some stuff over at DLF on Tuesday nights. We call it Taco Tuesday. But Tara, who's doing stuff with Fantasy Pros as well right now. She's one of the highest risers. Major. That's our Vipercast team. Major, he's going to get in some real talk when it comes to football here. I'm really looking forward to his solo series he's got. Mike Valvardi there and Roberto Serrano, they're going to get a little bit of a Devi show. Devi Pros, I think is where we're going to go with calling it there. So you're going to check that out. Biased Opinions is going to kick in there. A little bit of prop betting there coming at you with Will. If you guys have known Will, he was at the Fantasy Football Expo, made a lot of good connections. He's in that next guy, kind of taking that Jordan Vanek type rise when it comes to prop betting and stuff. Shout out to Vanek there, what his latest accomplishments. So, man, congratulations.
He's a chalk-blocked co-host, the mathematician himself.
Hey, Thieves got to represent here, right? So, Will, he's going to have his little bit of a show going on here. I'm excited for that. We got Jason. He's going to kick off a little bit of Capology on the network. So we've got some big shows coming at you here on the Viper Network. Shout out to the Full Tilt crew there. Thomas and Billy and Jacob and Tom Lee there. They are all doing some fantastic stuff. You catch their videos on the network. And then, man, we can't say enough about the graphics guys. Bob Gilchrist, Steven Johnson, Thomas Trips in there. Without the graphics, you got nothing. You know what I mean? If we just had a cute little StreamYard background, it's not the same. It's not chalk talk with a duck in the corner. You know what I'm saying? So, we got to give a shout out to the graphics guys. And then guys like, we got Pod. He's not he's banned from Twitter right now. But Jason and Chevy, Ryan P there, he's been cranking out the material lately. Every day it's like a new article coming down from him. He's doing stuff. My boy there, Rue. Are you kidding me? Is there a guy better than Rue when it comes to analytics? Really? All he does is drop knowledge in English. He's Portuguese, man. He's from Brazil, and he speaks better English than I do. The thing about the Vipers is we are probably the most diverse group out there. We're represented not only North America. We got Canada, we got the US, we got the Netherlands, we've got Brazil, we got Australia. We got Lewis there. He's in Hungary right now with his wife.
You got California, which is practically its own planet.
At least we don't have any Florida, so that would be another country. Zach, we got Zach. He's doing some good stuff as well. Jay Roberts, he's going to start doing some DFS stuff with us too. If you don't know who Jay is, get used to him. He was doing some stuff there on that old app that a lot of people had at one point. I can't even remember what it was called now. I don't know. It was a fancy place, but anyway, he's in a couple leagues with Tara. We'll put it that way. And then we got. Oh man, this group just keeps growing and growing. We got Megan, we got Joey, and then none of this is possible without a good editor. And Jeremy does as good as a job as anyone.
I thought Jeremy was an exemplary editor when he was editing my pieces that I wrote for y'all. He was so supportive. He was right to the point, and the edits he made, they didn't change what I wanted to say. And that's the key for an editor, is to clean it up without changing the voice.
And the best part is he does that without changing my voice. I don't even know the words coming out of my mouth half the time. And he ends up making me look smart. If I need something done quickly, boom, it's him. And he's in the Netherlands. We did that mock draft. It was like 4:00 in the morning.
Don't let him go. Don't let him go.
But yeah, you know what? It's family there. The Vipers are family, and I don't even feel comfortable talking about myself or promoting myself right now. But I head over to the Vipers, support each and every one of those individuals there. I think I said Megan as well. So make sure you go there, follow them. I think we've got some kind of check out everything that's coming from the Vipers, whether it's on the YouTube channel or on the website. Great people, and like I said, they're family to us. So that's what I got to say there.
I'm happy to be a very tiny sliver of that family too, and it's been a lot of fun to work alongside you and write for you guys. Because to be honest, Tara is my favorite because she's just awesome at everything she does, and there's a reason why she's rising fast too. She has all the talent in the world, and she's polished. You got Matt. Matt's the brains behind this Dynasty Vipers, but he's definitely not the good looks, and he's not the talent. He's the brains.
And that might be pushing it a little bit too. We may be using the brains in a very loose translation here. So
you've done so much for the community. You're one of the thieves with us. It's been an honor to have you on, Matt. I do thank you. Make sure you go to bigtimeflavor.co. We do ship to Canada. I just shipped an order off to Canada, and it was pretty reasonable. Not too long of a time, and the shipping cost wasn't that bad. So get to bigtimeflavor.co, enter the promo code CHOCK21, get 10% off your order. Even if you're Canadian, you'll get the discount. Sorry, I can't send you any good California maple because it doesn't exist. And it's like there's two things California food doesn't have. It's good maple and good pizza. We don't have good pizza here unless you're getting it out of my kitchen that I made myself. And shout out to Nimble members, Scott Simpson himself. He's headed to a wedding in New Mexico first thing tomorrow morning. And that's why I have the mustachioed upgrade, Matt Donnelly instead. I might have to bribe your wife to let you stay up late again and join me some other time. Probably a couple more times because you're awesome.
Well, the secret is adult diapers.
That reminds me of that astronaut chick that drove from Florida to Texas with the diapers on just to get back at her ex. Oh, that's great. That's where we're gonna end the show. We're gonna say, hey, let's end the show on adult diapers. Shout out Depends. Make sure you get the right size and don't reuse them over one day. They're also not washable. Shout out, not a sponsor. Depends.
Depends. They might depend. We can do a little play on words there.
Call me.